Okay, let's look at adding membership. And the first thing you need to know is when we secure pages, we can only secure folders. We can't secure individual pages. So we made this page that says this is top secret. And right now when we run this, anybody can get at it. So by default, all of our security is wide open. Anybody can see any page. And what we might want to do, so we're seeing this is top secret. What we want to do is make it so you have to log in to see this page. So to do this, the first step is go to your project, add a new item, and we're going to add just a normal web form, but it's got to be in the root of our project, and it's got to be named login.aspx. It just has to have this name, because when you try to access a page that you don't have permission to see, your product's going to look for a page called login.aspx. So we make this page, and then to get things going, to get this whole permission stuff started, what we're going to do is just drop a login control on here. And we got to put it up here in the right place, just get it in the content area. So I drag and drop a login control, and it looks like this. And the next step to actually add accounts and restrict things to folders is I need to create some database information. And again, we could create this database stuff ourselves, but there's quite a bit going on here. So I'm going to just let Visual Web Developer make this for me. And the way that we do that is we go to this login control, we talk to its Rob, and then we say administer website. And this actually starts up our web server, and he starts up the database server and talks to the database server, starts making some files for us. And he brings us to this page, and what we're going to do is we can either click here or click here, but we're going to hop to the security tab, and then we're going to run through a setup wizard, and this setup wizard makes accounts and again puts permissions, things like that, on the different folders for us. After you go through the setup wizard once, you can always come back here by talking to Rob and say administer website, but then you probably just want to go to the particular screen that you want rather than going through the wizard. But as we run through the wizard, the first thing is just a welcome page. We'll say next to that. But this is an important page. We want to select the access method. This is saying which database are we going to use to keep track of the username and passwords. From the internet says we're going to have our own SQL database to keep track of this. If we choose from a local area network, this means that we're going to use the Active Directory database that's already exists. So like here in the lab, if we log into the lab and then try to log in the web server, it's going to try to use our credentials from logging in to the CBC network to try to access the web server. And if we have permission with that one, we don't have to log in again. So like if you have a company intranet and also a company web server that you have to log into, this would be a good choice. But if you don't, and if for most things just coming from the internet, then we choose from the internet, and the people have to log in and just always have to log in and be validated against our database. So we choose from the internet. Then we come here and says, okay, we're going to advanced settings, define roles. So we can use roles, and think of roles as like groups, because what we're going to do is start adding permissions, and we're going to take away permissions from everybody to see particular folders, and then we have to add permission for certain people to see the folder. And so if I only have one or two people, it's easy to say, you know, add Kristen, let her see it, add Bonnie, let her see it. But if I had to add everybody in the class, it gets to be, you know, 20, 30, 100 people. It's too much work to add everybody in there. What we'll do then is we'll enable roles, and then we'll say each of these users is part of a role. So we would make all the students in the student group. So when I create a user, I say what group you're in, and then what I do is say let this group have permission to see the folder. So it's just kind of a time-saving mechanism. Rather than having to go through and say allow, you know, 18, 20, 1,000 people, I have to go through and list all those 1,000 people and have access to this. I can just say let everybody that's in this group or this role have access. And when we create an account, then I just stick you in a role. So it's, you know, we can have engineering and marketing, we can have students and administrators, whatever it is we want. So again, my rule of thumb is if I've got 2 or 3 people, I'm not going to do roles. But once I get 4, 5, 10, somewhere around in there, it's like, you know what, I'm going to start turning roles on and just use the roles. So I'll turn it on now. We can see what it does for us. Then if we say we want roles, we're going to have a role name, at least one. So I'm going to have an administrator role, and then I'm also going to add a member role. So either administrator or a member. And then we can create as many as we want, delete them here if we want. But as soon as we're done with all the roles we want to make, then we click next. And here we want to make at least one user. And we want to do the password stuff. And again, it's got some password strength rules on here, so you have to have at least 8 characters. You have to have at least one character that's not a letter or a number. So my suggestion, if you're just messing around, is use password.01. Or my other big suggestion is write it down, because there's no way to recover these. We can go see the encrypted password, but there's just no way for us to ever decrypt this. So write it down, or get ready to make your account again if you can't remember what the password is. So then your email, this doesn't really help us out here, because in production we would hook up to an email server. If you forget your password, we could then send your password back to you to your email address. But we don't have an email server here in the lab that we can use to forward this stuff off of. So this, well, I'm going to go through the motions anyway. Oops, security question. What's your name and security answer? So you notice it's got some prompts in here. It's because I've done this before, so it's pulling up off the out of memory for doing that. But I create the user, and we can create additional users if we want. I'm just going to make the one, and then we'll go through next. And here's where we start saying, let's add permissions or take permissions away. And you notice again, we can only do this by folder. So here's all the folders under my project. And what I've done is any that I want to secure, this is just something I do. I put an S or the letters SEC for secure in front of the folder name. So I'm going to take this folder. I choose the folder from column A. Then I go to here, column B. What does it apply to? And again, we usually take away things first. So say on this secure admin folder, I want all anonymous users. I want to deny them. So this means anybody that hasn't logged in, they're anonymous. Don't let them see what's in this folder. So I'll add that rule. And then what I'm going to do is come through here and say secure admin for this particular user, Tony, I want to allow. So I add that rule, and we kind of see them over here then. And this is the order that the project's going to try to process these, and it's going to take the first one that it finds. And so if I am logged in, I'm not anonymous anymore. But if I'm not logged in, it's going to hit this one first and then deny me permission. So we can also do this. And here's how we do the role. Say secure admin. Well, what role do we want to give permissions to? We could say for everybody that's in the admin role, allow them as well. So when I'm done with this, I say next, and we're pretty much done here. So we could go to the finish, and again, I could go back and go to any particular part of this, add new users, delete users, add users to roles, do that kind of stuff. And this is actually just look through here. This is where we actually add people to roles. So if I want to manage this admin role, I can come in and say find all the users that start with the letter T, and then do the checkbox here. And now I'm in the role. But that's it. So at this point, my security is actually set up and ready to use, and we can test this out by opening up this default page. So I'm going to run this and try to hit that page, and you notice I don't hit it. Where does it take me? It takes me to the login page. And the project, again, it's looking for a page called login.aspx. It says if you try to access a page you don't have permission to, what I'm going to do is take you to this login page. And if you can log in, then what it does is it remembers which page you were trying to get to and takes you back to that page. And what we can also do is let's try another page which we don't, or we do have access to this one. Again, I haven't secured this folder, so I can get to this page. But let's go show you a shortcut for adding permissions to this page, or adding restrictions to this page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh this folder so we see the new file that's been created here. So it's made a new file called web.config, and this is the file that holds the permissions. If we look at this, if we read through this, here's the authorization section. We kind of, what this is saying is deny and users equals question mark. Well, this means anybody that's not logged in, the anonymous users, deny them. And allow anybody that's with the username Tony, and allow anybody that's in the role admin. So what I can do, rather than going through the wizard or going back to that control panel to add permissions to a folder, I can just copy this web config and paste it in the folder. So now when I try to get this to this page, I should be able to say, see, this is the admin 2 page. I should be able to see this text. Well, when I run this, now that we have the permissions on this folder, you notice I don't see it. But now that I log in, I can see it. And I can also just go to sadmin folder and see this one. Now that I'm logged in, it says, yeah, you're logged in. I kind of keeps track of my credentials, keeps track that I'm logged in. I can see anything that I have permission to see. So for setting this stuff up, really, we go to the project, add the new item, and make sure that new item is a web page called login.aspx. On login.aspx, we grab the login control out of the login section toolbox, and then the rest of it's talking to Rob here. We go to administer website, talk to Rob, and just go through the security stuff. But after that, it's pretty much done. And here's what it's actually done for us. Is if we refresh here, it's made this database. And if we look in this database, well, actually, we'll go here to the Database Explorer. If we look in the database, it's made a bunch of tables. So again, we could have done this ourselves, but it's really done a lot. So it's made all these tables, and if we went and looked at these tables, we could see all the fields that are in here. And we can kind of see in here someplace that's got the passwords, but we could see, if we could find the password here, the password's encrypted. Even if we can look at it, we could go to another database program and look at this, but it's encrypted, and there's no way to decrypt it. It's just like a one-way encryption algorithm. So again, it's done quite a bit for us. For dragging off a control and talking to a wizard, it's really done a lot for us. But that's the basics of membership, getting that set up.